John the Baptist, who was in the wilderness preparing the hearts of the people for the coming of Jesus. One of the things I love about this story is the Pharisees came out to meet John and they asked John, "Who are you?" And John said, "I am here to prepare the way." I'm sure when they heard that, they were wondering to themselves, preparing the way for who? And today we turn to Jesus and the nature of Jesus' mission. We look at Mark 10, verses 35 to 45, and the second, Philippians 2, verses 1 to 11. Again, all of this is pointing to Jesus and the way that Jesus worked. One of the reasons why I wanted to be a minister as a child was because they got to sit at the front table. And it wasn't just that. It's that they were being served as honored guests. And I wondered to myself, what would it feel like to be served as an honored guest? Today, Jesus flips the whole script of what it means to be a leader. He doesn't come with an iron fist to lead with force or to gather up people with an army. But he comes as a lowly and humble servant. And he begins to shift our focus away from being served to serve. He didn't come with a selfish ambition. He didn't come to say, "I am Lord," or "God, I am the Son." He came with humility to show us what it means to serve people. Now, during our Bible study this week, we looked at what it means to be a good leader. And I'm sure if I ask the question, have we been involved with bad leaders? Right now, when I asked that question, everyone thought about that bad leader. Everyone was like, "Oh, yeah, I know someone who was a terrible leader." But there are very few who are good. Because leadership gives us status, gives us power, gives us things that weren't available to us as a servant. Jesus did not speak about service. He did not just speak about service, but he actioned what it meant to be humble enough to serve the other. When James and John came to Jesus, it wasn't the casual, "Excuse me, Jesus, I would like me and my brother to sit on one on the left and one on the right." It was more of a demand. "Jesus, make our requests. We're going to make our request known to you, and we want you to fulfill it. One of us to the left and the other to the right." And it's funny, when I read this passage, I automatically think of my younger brother who's getting married next week, who's my best friend. And I think about the moments when we were growing up together, how alike we were. And I often used to think, there are times when we wanted to fight each other, but at the same time, we love each other. People used to get confused. We'd argue, and in 2 seconds, we'd be talking about something else. And we would say to each other, "Oh, that's just what we do normally. That's just us." This deep love. James and John came because they had deep love for one another. But the challenge of that was they were asking something that they weren't prepared to receive. Jesus didn't come with a kingdom where his crown was on his head. He was preparing for the cross. He did not come to be king of all by ruling with force, but to be king of all by humbling himself to death. His crown was not a crown of gold and rubies and diamonds, but a crown with thorns etched into his head. Paul takes this and he not only takes what Jesus was doing, but he moves it even more into helping us understand what it means to serve. And it is about a selflessness in us. It is about always thinking of the other. Always valuing, always putting others before ourselves. Both passages point to what it's like as humans, that we love status, we love to be great. I had a cousin who played in the NRL and only played about, I think, 5 seasons. And I remember before he made the NRL, we'd sit there and he was like the unknown cousin that no one liked. His aunt would often tell him to go and sit outside and wait to be called in. And he always felt like, oh, no one really likes me. When he debuted in the NRL and he finally played a few games, I said, what's the difference? What's it like to go from the unwanted kid to the kid that everyone knows? And he said to me, you know, now my aunties call me and they say, my favorite nephew, it's been a while. The status that was given to him from his own hard work transformed the minds of the people because they liked it too. They wanted it as well. But he still remembered what it was like to be chased out the house, to be told to stay outside. The service or serving others, as Jesus is trying to transform us and teach us, is that it's about the other. If we serve our own cause, we will not be sitting here in this place hearing the good news of Jesus Christ. One of the challenges is that it flips the script of being a leader. Who is willing to be humble enough to be the last? Whenever I read this, I always remember when my youngest sister, when she was about 2 years old, when she came along, that meant there was 5 of us. So my aunt would come and she'd say, we're going to the movies, but she only had 4 seats in her car. And so someone had to decide who was going to stay and look after my little sister. And my 3 other siblings would bolt to the car and they'd get it and they'd lock the door. And I was too slow. So by the time I got to the car, they'd wind their windows down and they'd say, good luck, you're staying. And I remember crying because, I wanted to go to the movie so badly. But when I read this passage, it is about the service, to serve others. Sometimes it's hard in us because there are things that we want so bad. But what Christ has for us, or what God has for us, is far greater. When we give it to God, and when we give God our service, it reflects something far deeper. And the challenge is, once it reflects something far deeper, it helps others to explore what it means to be loved by God. And Jesus came to teach this kind of love, a love that is sacrificial, a love that is humble enough to say, you can be above me, to let others go through first, so that others may feast. He did not come to control for status, but to help us reflect what it means to be a Christian in this day and age. When Jesus knelt down to wash the disciples' feet, I'm sure they were shocked because they weren't ready for that kind of service, a one that sacrifices, a one that humbles itself. That was the Son of God, one who knelt down, said to them, come, I will teach you what it means to serve others. And in this day and age, it is hard because we become too selfish that we forget about the other. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus did not merely just teach these things, but he embodied it. And that's why his message continues to echo through centuries. It's because he lived it. He didn't just say these words, he lived and he breathed and he said to the people and his closest friends, this is what I'm willing to do for you. Though he was in the form of God, he did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, but emptied himself, taking the form of a servant, being born in human likeness, and becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. The highest became the lowest. The Creator became a servant. The King washed feet. The author of life submitted to death. It's like a CEO who, after everyone's left, comes back and cleans the office building. Can you imagine if that was happening today? You'd be shocked if you went in, oh, is that Bob? Is that John? The care of people is so important. And the one who spoke galaxies into existence, entered our broken world, washed the dusty feet, hung on a cross for sinners like us. The pathway to greatness is servanthood. It is the pathway to greatness. And that's a part of what we are doing here as a community, is to serve one another. Why will we sing an Afrikaans song, a Tongan song, hopefully a Sri Lankan song, Indian song, Syrian song? Why? Australian song. Because it's important to see one another beyond what we see with our eyes, to see the deep, the stuff that is internal, that is not seen. And in it, it says we are willing to serve one another. Because it teaches us about humbling ourselves to be the lowest so that others may be elevated in this space. The world climbs, Christ kneels. The world grasps, Christ gives. The world exalts itself, God exalts the humble. The way up is down. Easter, as we journey towards Easter, Jesus came humbly, not with force, but with a deep love for you and for me. In this season as we journey, it is about discovering how Jesus has loved. And sometimes we have to look back because we forget all that God has done. And it's important to hold that, because it's funny, I was watching a YouTube clip the other day, and the guy was talking about there are 5 Gospels: Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. And the 5th is you. You are the 5th Gospel of Jesus Christ. You are the walking gospel, and your story paints an important picture of what God has done in you. And everything you do, both in happy and in anger, reflect who Christ is in you. So as you go and as you reflect, the nature of Jesus' mission was to serve. So may you serve with love, knowing that God is with you. These are the words from God, for the people of God. Amen.